Bienvenidos and welcome back to another segment of La Plática through Arizona Barrio Stories. I'm proud to announce that we are now a 501c3 and have developed a long-time partnership with Latino USA TV. And today we're going to bring you the Chicano Stories Project. As you well know, our culture, our history has been under attack forever. And now, today, we're facing many, many issues. And so many of us are combating those issues through our deep roots in the Chicano movement. And today I have a Chicano civil rights attorney who's going to speak to us not only about his background, the history of the Chicano movement here in Phoenix, but then we're going to get into some of the current ICE issues and give information to our community on how we can combat this attack on our people again. Another attack, murdering people left and right. So it's a very important issue. Glad you're here today. Danny, let's talk a little bit about Chicanismo and what that meant to you growing up to be a Chicano. When did you first get really active in the Chicano movement?
I was at the end of my sophomore year at finishing high school when a few students from ASU who were there to recruit more Mexican Americans to go to ASU. And though that was sincere, their ulterior motive was that they were organizing. They were organizing on what was then the Chicano movement. The Chicano movement had just started within a year, more so in LA, ¿verdad? More so in California, and had moved into Arizona. And that's when I finally got to understand what Chicano was all about. You have to understand that my parents did not agree with me being called a Chicano or that they were Chicanos, right?
As many of our parents, right?
Yeah, but somehow it rang a bell with me. And the things that they were talking to me about, they weren't only about going to ASU, it was also about trying to get me to understand the differences between how we were treated and how other members of the community were treated and the disadvantages that came with it.
And you know, one of the fortunate things is that us as being members of the Chicano movement from way back, we were fortunate to have had, you know, interacted with Cesar, Dolores, Corky Gonzalez, Reyes Tijerina, Jose Angel Gutierrez, the early founders of that movement that influenced the young Chicano ASU students that came and recruited you. Talk about the beginnings of MASO, the Mexican American Student Organization, how that morphed into MECHA and how that impacted you and your leadership in the Chicano movement.
Well, I'm glad you raised it, Jose, because they were members of MASO, those Mexican Americans. Remember, we've had a lot of labels. Mexican American was one, Chicano was another one, Latino, Hispanic. I go with it. I know my cultural background. At the end of the day, it was those students that were members of MASO that came onto the campus. And so they had two purposes. One, to encourage us to go to ASU, but second of all, to understand how it is discrimination existed, you know, against our community and how it worked. And I think that was the thing that was most interesting. And let me tell you how I connected immediately. First of all, you got to know that I was always very proud of being Mexicano. Yo era mexicano hasta las cachas. My parents mexicanos hasta las cachas. And at the end of the day, music, food, all those things, right, were very close to me. The thing where I think I deviated from that was, you know, speaking English, trying to speak it perfectly, doing good in school. You know, there were some aspects of what we weren't necessarily learning culturally that we were learning from going to school and from watching TV and listening to radio. And then ultimately, these individuals who approached me at a very young age, I didn't use the word Chicano. I didn't identify with it until I met with them. And it included Jose, Cesar Chavez, Dolores Huerta, Corky Gonzalez, Jose Angel Gutierrez, Reyes Tijerina. I mean, we could go on and on. And it covered the gamut. It covered California, Colorado, Nuevo Mexico, Texas, and then ultimately Arizona. And we had Arizona on 2 counts with Cesar, right? Because he was born here, but ultimately his organizing was there. So I really look at the involvement of the Chicano movement as recognizing what it is that we weren't getting or a part of, simple math, simple things, that others had advantages over us on. And the one story that I always tell is, when I graduated from the 8th grade, Jose, I got a scholarship for $25. That was worth gold to me. Not so much in the amount, but in the fact that I got that recognition, because there in my 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I really started to excel academically. Okay, initially it was tough. Came into school only speaking Spanish, and so I had to build my way up on it. But at the end of the day, I got that scholarship. Man, my tios, my tias, my jefes, my jefas, everybody in the neighborhood, Danny got a scholarship. Made me feel like, you know, dang, ¿verdad? And then I go to Phoenix Union, brother. My first 2 days of high school, I was in shop classes. I'm like, so I go back to my counselor and say, well, why am I in shop? I thought I was going to be in college prep. She goes, oh, Danny, don't worry about it. That's where you're supposed to be. If by the end of the semester, you do good in your academic classes, we'll talk about it. I'm like, no, I'm not going to talk about it.
Right.
I went to the principal. He wouldn't see me. They sent me to the vice principal. He was busy. Next day, 2 days later, I got called into the vice principal's office. And his secretary looked at me and said, you don't need to see the vice principal, Danny. We have taken you out of vocational ed and put you into a college prep program. I'll tell you that when those Chicanos from ASU came at the end of my sophomore year and said, you know why you know what this school is for? I said, yeah, to educate people like me. He says, this is where they send raza to go into vocational ed instead of going to college.
Right.
Bam!
The light bulb came on.
It hit me like a rock. They did that to me, but I fought back.
And you know, Danny, your story is typical. You know, my high school counselor told me, Leba, you know, you come from the south side, the other side of the tracks. You have a migrant, grew up as a migrant. You know, don't go to college. You know, unfortunately, my brother was the smart one. He filled out the application for me, but counselors, and today that's still happening to our raza. They're trying to move them out of the academic track. Not that there's anything wrong with the vocational programs, okay? You can get a really good job as a plumber or as a welder, but why settle for that when you can do much more? Now, the effects of discrimination, where did that take you to get involved here in Arizona? Because basically the people you were talking about were some of the founders of Chicanos por la Causa.
Well, you know, the thing that struck with me the most, first of all, I had a personal interest in going to ASU, so let's put that on the table, right? And then came this new realization or this awakening that I had. They were not as rough on me. They weren't rough on me at all. They just wanted me to see a different point of view. But the more I got involved with them, the more distant I got. Remember, Jose, I was freshman class president, sophomore class president,
you were very
junior
involved.
class president,
Exactly.
all kinds of clubs. I was going to run for student body president. Eventually, right? This was at the end of my sophomore year. I'd already been elected junior class president. I was very mainstream in that regard. But when these people approached me and I connected it to my culture, I connected it to my parents, I connected it to a lot of things, where we lived, why it is we never lived, in particular parts of town, I started to, by the way, they told me these things too. I said, well, you know, and then, yeah. And so they made me see a side that was important that ultimately led to where I'm at today. Would I have gone to ASU? Would I have gone on to college? I would have. But I would have done it only with my interest in mind. And what they taught me was, get an education. It's the most important thing you do. But at the end of the day, it's how you help your family, because I always told them, I want to help my family, and how you help your community. That makes a difference to what we're all about.
And then, you know, that leads us to the beginnings of Mecha. You were in Mecha, and that's where we first met. I actually went to a couple of Maso meetings and then got involved with Mecha. And today, Mecha is still alive. It's probably not as strong as it used to be, but different states have Mecha chapters, and in fact, the Phoenix Union High School will be having their Mecha conference. You're going to be one of the speakers there at Alhambra High School coming up in February. So how did that change your trajectory, or how did that strengthen it? Because I know for me, it finally gave me that really sense of this is my calling, this is my identity, this is who I want to do, and this is how I'm going to serve my community by being a Chicano activist. What did that do for you?
Well, you know, as soon as I got admitted to ASU and started attending there, I got involved with Maso right away. I had already been groomed for all that, right? I didn't have to start then. I had already started 2 years before, and I saw the workings of what it meant to be a part of an organization, right? Before, school activity is different than being in the midst of a movement, being in the midst of creating change, being in the midst of being very proud of who I was culturally, and still being a part of a greater community, Maso taught me that. And of course, you know, I was, as you know, in my freshman year, they made me a co-chair of Maso.
Right.
Then we changed the name, not me, but the organization changed its name to MECHA, Movimiento Estudiantil Chicano de Aztlán. MECHA is short.
Right.
And, you know, I was president of MECHA for
Absolutely.
3 years at ASU. And in that, of course, that's where I met you, Jose. That's where I met a lot of people like you who were activists then, proud of who they were, proud of their culture, all of the things that I just talked about. And that was really motivating to me. But I think the thing that I most refer to is the fact that I had the opportunity to serve on the board of Chicanos por la Causa starting in my sophomore year at ASU.
Wow.
Chicanos por la Causa had probably been going on for about 2 years, around there, 2-3 years. And people say I'm a founder. That's not true. The fact is I was very young when I was on the board, 20, 21 years old. And Chicanos por la Causa then set me off even greater because it wasn't only Chicanismo. It wasn't only being proud. It wasn't only, you know, trying to create change. It was also a matter of building an infrastructure, housing, health clinics, educational institutions, making sure. So we combined the activism with the building.
Right. And Chicanos por la Causa, for those who don't know, is one of the largest nonprofits, and they are an economic driver in our community. And they are a leader here in the Southwest in terms of doing for our people and doing for people that don't have the means to be successful. So, yeah, I remember, and I have to give Danny a shout out to our public who may not know that I was working like 40 hours a week and going to school full time and in MECHA, and Danny said, here, we're going to get a job at Chicanos por la Causa. So we got a shout out to Sam Ramirez, who wrote a grant, got us Mechistas working at CPLC, and I quit that job, as told him goodbye. And so that's a history of Chicanismo supporting each other and helping us succeed, especially in education, and then giving back. So Danny, let's change gears now because we need to talk about what's happening today. It's happened to our community. My grandfather was deported in the 40s when my uncle was serving in the Navy, and that same injusticia is happening today. And so we want to discuss the events of today, and you as a civil rights attorney have been very active with individuals that are out there striking and protesting and at the forefront of giving information out to our public on how to protect themselves. So let's take a break, and then we're going to come back and discuss that.
I'm Danny Ortega with the Ortega Law Firm. The tip of the week is what to do if you have a car crash. 1 minute, everything is fine, and then all of a sudden, the worst has happened. You've been in a car crash. What you do next will make all the difference from your medical treatment to the compensation for your pain and suffering. There are a few important steps to take immediately following a car crash to ensure your rights are protected. Stay at the scene, ensure safety, call the police, talk to witnesses, take photos. Naturally, if you are injured, then you will need immediate medical attention. If you or someone you know was injured in a car accident, you should hire an experienced lawyer to help recover compensation for your injuries. I have the experience to represent you. I've recovered millions of dollars for my clients, and in one case, a jury awarded my clients $10 million. I will work for you on a contingency fee basis, which means you pay fees only if I recover compensation for your injuries.
So bienvenidos and welcome back to another segment of La Plática. This is Dr. Jose Leyva with Arizona Barrio Stories. We're now an official 501c3, and we have a great strategic partnership with Latino USA TV. And we're going to combine this partnership to bring you the Chicano Stories Project and other important stories that our community has lived through and survived. And now we are under another attack. The ICE, as everyone has known, the vilification of our immigrant brothers and sisters, the vilification of our culture, our language, our history, which is nothing new. And now we have other challenges. But those of us that have been around a long time, the Chicanos, that Chicanismo, we've brought that through everything we've done. We have a whole new generation of new leaders who are out there supporting our people and demanding justicia por las injusticias. And so here I have Danny Ortega, Chicano Chicano to the core, from his toes to his top of his head, a civil rights attorney who wants to give us some information to help our community. Daniel, welcome back.
Well, I think that we have to recognize first that we are reliving the 40s and 50s and the beginning of the 60s within our community with a whole new group of our community. And we're talking about folks who are immigrants who immigrated to this country in the last 30, 40 years, right? And unfortunately, the numbers are what's driving what's happening to us. Whether it's documented or undocumented, I think it's more about the people that are coming into this country as opposed to whether they have legal status or not. I believe that legal status is nothing but an excuse, nothing but a front to discriminate against our community. At the end of the day, I'm not encouraging law breaking. I'm not encouraging anything that has. What I'm saying is that we have to dig to the core about why it is this is happening in our community. We're talking about people who want opportunities no different than ours. The problem that they see, though, is that we are increasing the numbers that are too significant to let this go by. If it weren't for the fact that the numbers were so high and that they were having children and that they were registering to vote, their children are registering to vote, everybody is getting involved, we're getting a good education. But all of those things are happening within our community, not to the degree that we would like, but they're happening. And so all of a sudden you get a recognition from people who say, if we don't take control of this, it's going to take control of us. Right?
So it is a political issue, but it does have its roots in colonization, okay? But now, because of the success that we've had, and yes, we've had problems with the education system, but we still know that's the door to creating change. And the more of our kids are getting educated, our DACA students are doing wonderful in school. There's like a 95% graduation rate among DACA students. And so what are the answers, though, to combat ICE and to combat these discriminatory policies from this administration?
Well, first of all, Jose, I'm not going to answer your question directly right away. The answer is to recognize the value of immigrants to this country and how this country was built on the back of immigrants throughout the country, from different countries of the world, okay? That's number one. But on the other hand, Jose, we're dealing with a situation where the abuses, right, that come with trying to enforce the law, in spite of the human cost, is a clash. And why it is that is going on, what's going on, it's been going on for a while. They're just ramping it up little by little. All they needed, those who tell us it's because they're illegal, when we know that there's more to it than that, when they get a president like Donald Trump. And by the way, for all of you Mexicanos, Latinos, Hispanics who voted for Donald Trump, I hope you're happy to see your community attacked. I hope you're happy that you're going to have children who are going to be left here alone because of what's going on. At the end of the day, we can't be accomplices to the tragedy that's happening in our communities. We have to be supportive of each other and fight inhumane treatment. And there's the key, to fight inhumane treatment irrespective of status.
Right. And you know, back then it was largely Mexican Americans, but now it's everybody. It's every denomination, every culture, every Latino country, Colombianos, Salvadoreños, and refugees from a lot of other countries that are suffering this inhumane treatment. And I think it's galvanized our African American people, our Native American, our Latinos, our Anglo community is now galvanized to see this inhumane treatment and to want it to be stopped. What's your take on that?
Well, I think the best example of how people are coming together is what happened most recently with the murder of what was
Renee.
It? Renee Good.
Good.
Yes. What's happening with her? It's always been my position and our position, right? That if they can hurt us, they can hurt anybody.
Right. Right.
That if they try to round us up, they can round up anybody. And she, unfortunately, became the example of what abuse of power, what this very hateful movement that's going on in this country can affect us all. She's the perfect example of that. And Jose, I really want to be thankful to all of the groups of all colors, particularly within the Anglo community, who are coming forward to say enough. This isn't what it was supposed to be, in large part because of her. To me, it's important to recognize that those people are now on our side for humane treatment.
Right.
Those people now see the abuses that can occur, and so we welcome them into our tent because we're going to need everybody to fight this hate.
And we want to say to Renee's family that we feel for your loss, your pain. We're here for you, but we appreciate the sacrifice that she made for justice, really. And so to her family, the best wishes, our deepest sympathies, but we all have to come together. And I think that's starting to happen now. I was watching the protests in all the countries, here in Arizona, everywhere, Scottsdale. As I was driving here, there's one young Anglo man on the corner with a sign saying, "Stop this injustice." And so we need more of those voices speak. Now, I know that you are working with some of our local legislators, and you've come out with some information, and we're going to show that on our screen to our community. Talk to me about that information and what it says to individuals that may get stopped by ICE.
Well, I belong to a group that meets, as often as necessary. That, number one, has what they call a rapid response team, where we're training people or helping to train people to deal with the injustice that's going on right now within our community, particularly within the Mexican community, and to inform them what their rights are. Sometimes when we get victimized, we believe we're less than, and the victimization that's going on right now against our community, they feel like they have no rights. They feel like there's nothing they can do. Our job, and this organization's job, and all of our jobs, is to educate our community and say, no, this is the United States of America. It has a constitution, okay? And that constitution demands certain rights. The most important of which is the 14th Amendment and due process. There are lots of immigrants in this community, okay, who don't understand that Constitution applies to them, whether it be the right to remain silent, whether it be the right to due process, and all of those, the right to free speech. All of those things are constitutional, and they apply to persons, not to persons who are here legally or U.S. citizens. And so, what we're doing is training people to train people to assert their rights. And it's almost like talking to somebody who may be arrested, right? Or who has been arrested. I mean, you have the right to remain silent. You have the right to demand due process. Even within the immigrant community, who people believe are here without documents, they have rights, number one, but number two, they also have remedies, Jose.
Okay.
Thousands and thousands of people have been here for a long time, have garnered equities, okay, that potentially could lead to their legalization. So not everybody out there who's undocumented is defenseless, first of all, in terms of their constitutional rights, but more importantly, that they have remedies within the immigration laws of the United States of America.
Well, that's a great point, and we want to make that point to our community. And again, we're showing on our screen the recommendations and from this rapid response team, but we also want to give a shout out to all of them. I mean, there's so many of them. Lydia Guzman, Ana Hernandez, Annalise Ortiz, Cesar Aguilar, Raquel Teran, and many, many other leaders. Our love and support for what you're doing. Keep it up, don't stop. Dale gas, con mucho ánimo, porque sí se puede. So, Danny, as we begin to close this session, something that just hit me really important right now is that our people understand they do have rights. Doesn't matter whether you're here legally or illegally or documented or undocumented, you do have rights. So if you were to say to una familia de inmigrantes, what would your message be to them?
First of all, I would tell them if they're caught before they can get to see a lawyer, the first thing I'd tell them is get a consultation with a lawyer. I don't do immigration work, but I can tell you that there are a lot of very qualified lawyers out there. Get a consultation, number one. Number two, understand your rights. And number one is that you are a resident of the United States of America to which the U.S. Constitution applies. This lawyer can help you to understand that. And whether, if somebody approaches you, you have the right to remain silent. If somebody asks you to show your papers, you don't have to unless, they show you the authority to be able to ask for those documents. And typically that only happens on the border, Jose, not in the interior. You have the right to exercise your due process rights, that you're not, because they believe you're here undocumented, that you have no rights. You do have rights. And most important, hire a lawyer to see if there are equities that you have, or that your situation in this country may entitle you to legal residency or protections from the law.
So I'm sitting at home, Danny, and all of a sudden the door's torn down by these, what I call them, Nazi stormtroopers. Okay, it's taking us back into history. These are like SS officers to me. Who knows what kind of training they have? Who knows what their backgrounds are? But they have guns. They're in pickup trucks and unmarked cars, and they're just knocking down doors. So they knock down my door and throw me down on the ground. What are my rights?
Well, I mean, first of all, you have a right not to be not to be touched.
Right.
They can't assault you. They can't batter you. They can arrest you. Don't give them any more than they already might have in terms of the right to arrest you. Don't fight back. Those are assault charges immediately. That puts you in a category much differently than being undocumented. That puts you, see, being undocumented is a civil violation. Everybody believes that it's not criminal. It's a civil violation. If you do anything other than stand your ground, remain silent, let them do what they need to do, you can fight it out in court, right? You can get somebody to get you out of jail.
And that's great advice. We want you to be alive. We don't want you to be dead, because that's some of the tragedy that's happening. I think of something like 300 migrants have been killed, or citizens and non-citizens have been killed by ISIS during this time period. So
the important thing is to not resist, Jose,
okay,
and to remain silent and to insist on your rights under the Constitution as well as the immigration laws.
Okay, great advice, great advice. So we want to close this segment with one final comment from our trusted attorney here and civil rights activist and longtime Chicano, mi compadre, mi homeboy for many, many years. As we turn this corner where we're galvanizing more support, what is this rapid response team? What are they going to be doing now that we can give that information to our community? What should the community be watching for from the rapid response team?
Well, there are plenty of groups out there that are a part of a rapid response team. There's lots of groups, right? Look for those groups. That's what's most important. A lot of nonprofits are doing it. At the end of the day, look for a group. Look for an opportunity to seek out their help, to seek out their guidance. If you are here as a U.S. citizen or a legal permanent resident, I ask you to please comfort and be allies to the community that isn't in your situation, and do what you can to get them to the right place. Do what you can to provide them protection. And last but not least, to the U.S. citizens, register to vote. And make sure you get out to vote, because elections have consequences. Donald Trump is the consequences that we paid for those of you who could have voted against him and didn't vote against him, or that stayed home and didn't vote at all.
Right.
The election was close enough throughout the country. He says he won by a landslide. That's a damn lie. Okay? He won by a hair, 1.3 percentage points, all right? At the end of the day, if you get involved in politics and can get involved in politics, getting out to vote, or getting your community out to vote, or getting your community to register to vote is the way we're going to turn this around. Because, Jose, it's happening. Our community is coalescing. Our community is coming together. And if we look at the next election, we can stop Donald Trump to the U.S. Congress in this coming election.
And I think your beautiful mother used to have a saying about that. ¿Te acuerdas?
Mi mamá decía que no hay un mal que por bien no venga. And this is the mal. And we're going to make it bien again.
So, brother, viva la raza, viva Chicano Power. Thank you so much for being here. To our audience, muchas gracias for joining us. And don't forget to vote. Su voto es su voz. Muchísimas gracias, Dr. Jose Leyva, La Plática, Arizona Barrio Stories, and Latino USA TV. We'll see you next time. Vote. Gracias.